Captain Hyun-soo looked out the window of his ship and saw nothing but empty space. Stars were everywhere, but they looked so far away. He had been traveling for 6 months now, and this was the farthest any human had ever gone from Earth. "Captain, I think I found something," said Yoonji from her seat at the navigation controls. She was young but very smart. Her fingers moved quickly over the buttons and screens. Hyun-soo walked over to look at her screen. "What is it?" "There's something big out there. It's not moving, but it's sending out some kind of signal." Yoonji pointed at the green dots on her screen. "It's near that red star," the captain called to the other crew members. "Taeho, So Young, come here. We found something." Taeho was the ship's engineer. He was good at fixing things and understanding how machines worked. So Young was a scientist who studied alien life, even though they had never found any aliens before. "What kind of signal is it?" asked So Young. She looked excited. This was what she had been waiting for her whole life. Taeho checked his instruments. "It's not like anything we've seen before. The pattern is too organized to be natural." Captain Hyun-soo made his decision. "Let's go take a look, but everyone stay ready. We don't know what we might find." The ship moved closer to the signal. As they got nearer, they could see a large object floating in space. It was made of metal and had strange shapes carved into its surface. The object was spinning slowly, and lights blinked on and off in patterns. "It's definitely not human," said Yoonji. "Look at those symbols. I've never seen writing like that before." So Young was recording everything with her camera. "This is incredible. First contact with alien technology. We're making history." Taeho was worried. "Captain, should we really get so close? We don't know if it's dangerous." "We came here to explore," said Hyun-soo. "But we'll be careful." Suddenly, the alien object sent out a strong signal directly at their ship. The screens filled with symbols and sounds that made no sense to them. "It's trying to communicate," said Yoonji. "The computer is trying to translate it, but it's going to take time." They waited and watched as their computer worked on the message. After an hour, words started to appear on the screen. The translation was not perfect, but they could understand most of it. The message said, "Warning to all space travelers. This species is protected. Designation, human. No harm shall come to them. Violation will result in total destruction. By order of the Guardians." The 4 humans looked at each other in shock. They read the message again and again. "How do they know about humans?" asked So Young. "We've never been in space before. We've never met any aliens." "And who are these Guardians?" added Taeho. Captain Hyun-soo felt confused and worried. "This doesn't make sense. How can we be protected by someone we've never met?" Before anyone could answer, new lights appeared outside their ship. 3 large alien ships came out of nowhere and surrounded them. These ships were beautiful and looked very advanced. They had smooth curves and were silver-like mirrors. "Oh no," whispered Yoonji. "What do we do now?" The alien ships sent them a message. This time, the translation came faster. "Human vessel, do not be afraid. We are the Villani Trade Consortium. We come in peace. We know about your protected status." "Captain." Hyun-soo took a deep breath. He had to be brave for his crew. He pressed the button to send a message back. "This is Captain Hyun-soo of the Earth ship Daehan Explorer. We don't understand what you mean by protected status." There was a pause. Then the alien voice came again. "Permission to board your ship? We must speak with you about very important matters. Matters that concern all humans." Hyun-soo looked at his crew. They were all scared, but they were also curious. This was what they had come to space to find. "You may board," said the captain. "But only one of you." "Understood." Preparing. Transport. A bright light surrounded one of the alien ships. When the light faded, a figure appeared on their ship. It was tall and thin, with blue-green skin and large eyes. It wore a white uniform with symbols on it. The alien bowed politely. "I am Jun-ho, commander of this patrol fleet. I am honored to meet humans for the first time." So Young stepped forward. She was shaking a little, but she was too excited to be scared. "We're honored to meet you too, but we need to ask you something important. How do you know about humans? And what is this protection you mentioned?" Jun-ho looked surprised. "You truly do not know?" Your species has been known to us for thousands of years. The Guardians told us about you long ago. But we've never left our planet before, said Taeho. How could you know about us? The Guardians watch many worlds. They told us that one day humans would come to space. They said we must protect you and never harm you. All the galaxy knows this law. Yoonji couldn't believe what she was hearing. All the galaxy? Yes, there are many species among the stars. All of them know about humans. All of them know the law. Humans are off limits. No harm shall befall them. Captain Hyun-soo sat down, heavily in his chair. This is too much to understand. Why would these Guardians protect us? Who are they? Junho's expression became serious. That is a very long story. The Guardians were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They disappeared long ago, but their laws still control everything we do. What laws? Asked So-young. The most important law is about humans. Any being that harms a human, even by accident, will be destroyed completely. Their entire species will be wiped out. This has happened before. The four humans stared at the alien in shock. You're saying that if someone hurts one human, their whole species dies? Asked Hyun-soo. Yes. The Guardians built machines to make sure this law is followed. These machines are still working, even though the Guardians are gone. Taeho felt sick. How many species have been destroyed? Several. The last time was 300 years ago. A species called the Mordak accidentally killed one human in a mining accident. Within one day, every Mordak in the galaxy simply stopped existing. The ship became very quiet. Everyone was thinking about what this meant. So we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy, said Yoonji quietly. Not because we're strong, but because we're protected. Junho nodded. That is why I am here. My job is to make sure you are safe and to tell you about galactic civilization. The Council wants to meet you. What council? Asked Captain Hyun-soo. The Galactic Council. Representatives from all the major species. They have been waiting for humans to reach space for a very long time. So-young had many questions. But why? Why are we so special? What makes humans different from other species? Junho was quiet for a moment. That is something the Council will explain better than I can. But I will tell you this. The Guardians never protected any other species like this. Only humans. There must be a reason. Captain Hyun-soo made his decision. We'll come with you to meet this council. But our mission was to explore, and we want to learn everything we can. Of course, said Junho. Learning is very important. You have much to discover about the galaxy, and we have much to learn about humans. As their ship followed the alien vessels toward unknown worlds, the four humans couldn't stop thinking about what they had learned. They were protected, but they didn't know why. They were special, but they didn't understand how. Most importantly, they were no longer alone in the universe. And somehow, they had always been part of something much bigger than they ever imagined. The journey to the Villani homeworld took 3 days. During this time, Junho stayed on their ship and taught them about space travel and alien cultures. He was patient and kind, always asking if the humans needed anything. Your ship is very simple, Junho said to Taeho as they looked at the engine room. But it works well for a first space journey. Taeho felt a little embarrassed. We did our best with what we had. Do not worry, said Junho. All species start this way. The important thing is that you made it to space. When they reached the Villani world, the humans could not believe what they saw. The planet was covered in huge cities that sparkled like jewels. Ships of all shapes and sizes flew between tall buildings that reached into the clouds. So many people, whispered Yoonji as they landed at the spaceport. Not just Villani, said Junho. Many species live here. This is one of the galaxy's main trading centers. Captain Hyun-soo and his crew followed Junho through the busy spaceport. They saw aliens of all kinds. Some were tall, some were short. Some had fur, some had scales. But all of them stopped what they were doing when they saw the humans. Why is everyone staring at us? Asked So-young. They have never seen humans before, explained Junho. You are famous throughout the galaxy, but no one has ever met you. They walked through wide streets filled with amazing sights. Flying cars moved through the air above them. Holographic signs showed advertisements in dozens of alien languages. The humans tried to look at everything at once. "This is incredible," said Yunji. "How long have your people been building cities like this?" "Thousands of years," said Junho. "But we learned much of our technology from other species. In space, everyone shares knowledge." They arrived at a massive building in the center of the city. It was taller than any building on Earth and was made of a strange metal that changed colors in the sunlight. "This is the council building," said Junho. "Ambassador Kethral is waiting for you." Inside the building, they took a fast elevator that moved so smoothly they barely felt it. When the doors opened, they were in a huge room with windows that showed the entire city below. Ambassador Kethral was waiting for them. She was different from Junho, taller and with darker skin. Her eyes were bright yellow, and she wore long robes covered in beautiful patterns. "Welcome, humans," she said in perfect English. "I am honored to meet the protected ones." Captain Hyun-Soo bowed politely. "Thank you for meeting with us. We have many questions." "I know you do," said Kethral. "Please sit down. What I am about to tell you will be difficult to believe." They sat in comfortable chairs around a large table. Kethral pressed a button, and the walls around them changed into giant screens showing stars and planets. "First, you must understand how old galactic civilization is," she began. "We have been traveling between stars for over 50,000 years. In all that time, we have met hundreds of different species. The screens showed images of different aliens and their worlds. Some looked similar to humans, others were completely different. 50,000 years ago, the most powerful species in the galaxy was called the Guardians. They were ancient even then, and their technology was like magic to everyone else. New images appeared on the screens. The Guardians looked almost human, but taller and with silver skin that seemed to glow. The Guardians could do things that seemed impossible. They could move planets, create new stars, and travel instantly across the galaxy. Every other species looked up to them as gods. So Young was taking notes as fast as she could. "What happened to them?" "They disappeared," said Kethral. "One day they were there, the next day they were gone. But before they left, they gave us laws that we must follow." The screens now showed a large book written in glowing symbols. These laws control how all species must behave in the galaxy. Most of them are simple. No destroying planets, no enslaving other species, things like that. But one law is special. Taeho leaned forward. "The law about humans?" "Yes, the Human Protection Law. It says that humans are under the complete protection of the Guardians. Any harm to any human will result in the total destruction of the species that caused the harm." Captain Hyun-Soo felt cold. "But we didn't know about this law. We didn't know about any of this." "That is exactly what the Guardians wanted," said Kethral. "They said humans must develop naturally, without interference from other species. We were told to watch your world from far away, but never to contact you until you came to space on your own." Yunji couldn't understand something. "But how did they know about us 50,000 years ago? Humans were just starting to make tools back then." Kethral smiled sadly. "That is one of the great mysteries. The Guardians seemed to know things that would happen in the future. They told us exactly when humans would reach space, and they were right." The screens changed again, showing Earth from space. But this wasn't a recent picture. It looked ancient. "This image was taken by Guardian ships 50,000 years ago. They knew about your planet when your species was still very young." So Young stared at the image. "They were watching us all that time?" "Not just watching, protecting. Your planet has been surrounded by Guardian defense systems for thousands of years. Nothing dangerous has ever been allowed to get close to Earth." The humans looked at each other in amazement. They had always thought Earth was alone in the universe. "But why?" asked Captain Hyun-Soo. "Why are humans so special?" Kethral's expression became very serious. "That is something we do not know. The Guardians never explained why humans were different. They just said that humans must be protected at all costs." "Have other species been destroyed for harming humans?" asked Taeho. "Yes," said Kethral quietly. "Several times. The most recent was the Mordak Empire 300 years ago. They were mining an asteroid when a human exploration probe crashed into their station. One human pilot died in the accident. The screen showed images of the Mordak, large, strong aliens with thick skin and multiple arms. "What happened to them?" asked So Young, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Within 24 hours, every Mordak in the galaxy simply stopped existing. Their ships were found floating empty in space. Their cities were abandoned. Not a single Mordak was left alive. "But it was an accident," said Unji. "They didn't mean to hurt anyone. The Guardian machines do not care about intentions," said Kethral. "The law is absolute. Any harm to humans results in extinction." Captain Hyun-Soo felt sick. "So every species in the galaxy is afraid of us?" "Not afraid," said Kethral. "Respectful. We understand that you did not choose this protection, but we also understand that we must be very careful around humans." Taeho had a terrible thought. What if we hurt each other? What if humans fight humans? The law only applies to other species harming humans. Humans can do whatever they want to each other. The Guardians made that clear. The room was quiet for a long time. The humans were trying to process everything they had learned. "There's something else you need to know," said Kethral. "The protection has conditions." "What kind of conditions?" asked Captain Hyun-Soo. "The Guardian machines watch human behavior. If humans become too violent or dangerous to other species, the protection might be removed." So Young looked worried. "How violent is too violent?" "We do not know the exact limits. But the Guardians left instructions that humans must prove they can be peaceful neighbors in the galaxy." Yoonji thought about Earth's history. "Humans have had many wars. Will that count against us?" "Wars between humans do not matter," said Kethral. "The Guardians only care about how humans treat other species." "But we've never met other species before today," said Taeho. "Exactly. Today begins your test. From now on, how humans behave in the galaxy will determine if you keep your protection." Captain Hyun-Soo stood up and walked to the window. The alien city stretched out below him, full of different species living and working together. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "We want you to join us," said Kethral, "to become part of galactic civilization, to trade with us, learn from us, and teach us about your species. And if we say no, then you can return to Earth and pretend this never happened. But the galaxy will continue to exist around you. Other species will eventually reach Earth, whether you want them to or not." So Young looked at her notes. "How many species are there in the galaxy?" "Hundreds of intelligent species. Thousands of different cultures. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders. And they all know about the human protection law?" "Every single one. It is the most important law in galactic civilization." The humans spent the rest of the day learning about different alien species and their cultures. They saw pictures of incredible worlds and amazing technologies. But they also learned about the destroyed species, the ones that had accidentally harmed humans. That night, in their guest rooms, the four humans talked about what they should do. "We never asked for this protection," said Yoonji. "It doesn't feel right that other species die just because one human gets hurt." "But we can't change it," said Taeho. "The Guardian machines are still out there, still watching. Maybe we can learn more," said So Young. "Maybe we can understand why the Guardians chose to protect us." Captain Hyun-Soo looked out the window at the alien stars. "Tomorrow we'll tell Ambassador Kethral that we want to learn everything we can about the galaxy, about the Guardians, about the protection law." 3 months had passed since Captain Hyun-Soo and his crew learned about their protected status. They had spent this time traveling between different worlds, meeting various alien species and learning about galactic civilization. Each species they met treated them with great respect and caution. Now they were at Research Station Nova, a human outpost on the edge of known space. Earth had quickly built several small stations after learning about the galaxy, and bright scientists like Minho worked at these locations to study alien technology in space. Minho was excited to meet the returning crew. He was young and eager to learn everything about their discoveries. "Captain Hyun-Soo, how many different species did you meet this time?" 12 new ones," replied the captain. "Each one more fascinating than the last. A-Ra and Dong-Wook, too. Other researchers at the station gathered around to hear about the journey. A-Ra was an expert in alien languages, while Dong-Wook studied space engineering. "Did you learn anything new about the Guardians?" asked A-Ra. She had been trying to understand Guardian symbols for weeks. "A little," said So-Young. "But every species we meet knows less than the previous one. The Guardians were very secretive even when they were still around." The research station was small but comfortable. It had everything humans needed to live in space: air recyclers, food makers, and communication equipment to stay in touch with Earth and other human stations. "We received some strange reports while you were gone," said Dong-Wook. "Some of the alien traders mentioned seeing unfamiliar ships in the outer regions." Tae-Ho looked concerned. "What kind of ships?" "Dark-colored ones with sharp edges. Not like the smooth, peaceful ships we've seen from the Council species." Captain Hyun-Soo frowned. "Did anyone try to make contact with them?" The traders said. "They tried, but got no response. The ships just disappeared when anyone got too close." That evening, the crew shared dinner with the station researchers. They talked about their discoveries and their growing understanding of galactic politics. Everything seemed peaceful and normal, but far away in space, something dangerous was moving. General Vextar stood on the bridge of his warship, looking at star charts. He was the leader of the Iron Talon Raiders, a group of aliens who refused to follow Galactic Council laws. The Iron Talon believed in taking what they wanted by force. Vextar was large and covered in dark scales. His species, the Keth Mori, had been warriors for thousands of years. He had sharp claws and teeth, and eyes that glowed red when he was angry. "Show me the human station again," he ordered his lieutenant. The screen displayed Research Station Nova, small and defenseless in the darkness of space. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked the lieutenant nervously. "The protection law—" Vextar's eyes glowed brighter. "The Guardians disappeared thousands of years ago. This protection is just an old story meant to scare us." "But what about the Mordak? They were completely destroyed. Lies and propaganda from the Council," snarled Vextar. "They made up those stories to keep species in line. I've been planning this for years, studying every report, every claim. There's no proof that any species was actually destroyed by Guardian machines." The lieutenant still looked worried. "What if you're wrong? Then we'll find out for sure. But I believe the truth is that humans are just another weak species that the Council wants to protect for some political reason." Vextar had been angry about the human protection law for a long time. His people were strong warriors, but they had to be careful and respectful around a species that had barely learned to travel between planets. It wasn't fair. "Prepare the attack fleet," he commanded. "We'll hit the research station fast and hard, take the humans prisoner, and let's see what these mysterious Guardian machines actually do." Back at Research Station Nova, Minho was working, late in his laboratory. He was studying samples of alien metals when the station's alarm began to sound. "All personnel to emergency stations," announced the computer. "Unknown ships approaching." Captain Hyun-Soo ran to the control room where Eunji was already working at the communication console. "How many ships?" he asked. "6 large vessels moving fast," replied Eunji. "They're not responding to our messages." So-Young and Tae-Ho joined them, along with the station researchers. "Could they be Council ships?" asked A-Ra hopefully. Tae-Ho checked the sensor readings. "No, these ships have weapon signatures. They're definitely military." The ships appeared on the main screen. They were dark and menacing, with sharp angles and glowing red lights. Nothing like the peaceful vessels they had seen from Council species. "This is General Vextar of the Iron Talon Raiders," came a harsh voice over the communications. "Human station, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Captain Hyun-Soo stepped forward. "This is Captain Hyun-Soo. We are a peaceful research station. What do you want?" "I want to test an old story," replied Vextar. "We're coming aboard." "We should call for help," whispered Dong-Wook. "There's no time," said Tae-Ho. "They're already launching boarding ships." The station shook as the alien ships attached to their docking ports. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors as armed raiders forced their way inside. "Stay calm," said Captain Hyun-Soo. "Don't give them any reason to hurt us." The control room doors burst open, and Iron Talon raiders poured in. They were all heavily armed and wore black armor. General Vextar followed them, his red eyes scanning the humans. "So these are the famous protected humans," he said mockingly. "You look quite ordinary to me." "What do you want?" asked Captain Hyun-soo, trying to stay brave. "I want to prove that your protection is a lie," said Vextar. "For too long my people have had to bow down to humans just because of an old story about extinct guardians." He walked over to Minho, who was standing near his workstation. "You seem young and unimportant," Vextar said cruelly. "Perfect for my experiment." Before anyone could react, Vextar struck Minho with his clawed hand. The young researcher fell to the floor, blood spreading around him. "Minho!" cried Ara, trying to reach him, but the raiders held her back. The young scientist's eyes closed, and he stopped moving. "There," said Vextar triumphantly. "I have killed a human! Now let's see what these mythical guardian machines actually do." Captain Hyun-soo knelt beside Minho, checking for signs of life. But it was too late. The bright young researcher was dead. "You monster!" whispered So-young, tears in her eyes. Vextar laughed. "I'm a realist. And now that nothing has happened, we can proceed with capturing the rest of you." "Sir," called one of his raiders from the communication station, "I'm getting strange readings from our ships." "What kind of readings?" "System failures. Multiple ships are reporting that their engines are shutting down." Vextar frowned. "That's impossible. Run diagnostics." More reports came in over the radio. All across the Iron Talon fleet, ships were experiencing mysterious malfunctions. Weapons systems were failing, life support was cutting out, and engines were going dead. "Sir, this is Commander Zhek from the battleship Iron Fist. Our entire ship is losing power. We can't explain it." "Sir, this is Captain Morrill from Destroyer 7. Our computers are showing impossible energy readings. Something is interfering with all our systems." Vextar's confidence began to fade as more and more reports came in, not just from the ships at the station, but from Iron Talon vessels across the galaxy. "Sir," came a panicked voice from the communications. "This is Base Command. All our stations are reporting system failures. It's like something is taking control of our technology." Through the station windows, they could see strange lights beginning to appear in space. The lights were geometric shapes that pulsed with an energy that seemed to bend reality around them. "What are those?" whispered Dong-wook. Captain Hyun-soo stared at the lights in amazement and horror. "Those must be the Guardian machines." The geometric shapes were getting larger and brighter. They weren't ships in any sense that anyone understood. They were something far more advanced. They moved without engines, turned without thrusters, and seemed to exist partially outside normal space. "This is impossible," said Vextar, but his voice was shaking now. "The Guardians are extinct. These can't be their machines." One of the Guardian constructs moved close to the station. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a complex pattern of light and metal that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," called a raider urgently, "our ships are being unmade somehow. The metal is turning to dust, but the crews are being moved to escape pods." "What do you mean, unmade?" "The ships are just falling apart, but very carefully. Like something is taking them apart piece by piece." Vextar ran to the window and saw his mighty warships dissolving into clouds of harmless particles. His crews were being deposited in small escape pods that drifted safely in space. "The beings responsible for this harm will now be removed from existence," came a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. It wasn't sound, it was something deeper and more fundamental. "Sir," came terrified voices over the radio. "Iron Talon personnel across the galaxy are reporting the same thing. Our people are just disappearing." "What do you mean, disappearing?" "They're there one moment and gone the next. Their clothes are left behind, but the people are just gone." Vextar looked around at his remaining raiders. They were backing away from him in fear. "Sir, I think it's starting," whispered one of them. The news of the Iron Talon's complete destruction spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species that heard the report felt the same cold fear. The guardian protection of humans was not just real, it was absolute. Captain Hyun-soo stood beside Minho's covered body in the station's medical bay. The young researcher would be the first human to be buried in space, and his death had triggered the most devastating display of power the galaxy had seen in centuries. "The Galactic Council ships are approaching," reported Yoon-ji from the control room. "Ambassador Keth Ral is with them." Within an hour, the research station was filled with representatives from dozens of species. They had come to see for themselves what remained of the Iron Talon attack and to understand exactly what the Guardian machines had done. Ambassador Keth Rowell moved carefully through the station, examining the empty armor left behind by the vanished raiders. "In all our records," she said quietly, "we have never seen the Guardian response happen so quickly or so completely." A Volani scientist named Dr. Kemtar was scanning the armor with various instruments. "There's no trace of organic matter whatsoever. It's as if the Iron Talon individuals simply stopped existing. So Young was recording everything for Earth's archives." "How is that even possible? Where did they go?" "We don't know," admitted Keth Rowell. "Guardian technology operates on principles we don't understand. They might have been transported somewhere else, or they might have been reduced to their basic particles." Tejo examined the communication records. "According to these logs, it happened simultaneously across the entire galaxy. Every Iron Talon individual on thousands of different worlds vanished at exactly the same moment." "That's impossible with normal technology," said Dr. Kemtar. "Even faster-than-light communication has limits. This was instantaneous across galactic distances." Captain Hyun-Soo looked out the station window at the space where the Guardian constructs had appeared. "How long were those machines waiting out there?" "Probably since the Guardians disappeared," replied Keth Rowell. "They've been hidden, watching, waiting for someone to break the human protection law." Aira had been very quiet since Minho's death. Now she spoke up with anger in her voice. "Why didn't they save him? If they can destroy an entire species instantly, why couldn't they protect one young man?" The room became silent. It was a question everyone was thinking but afraid to ask. "The Guardian's laws are absolute but not preventative," explained Keth Rowell sadly. "They don't stop harm from happening. They punish it after it occurs. The deterrent effect is supposed to prevent anyone from trying." "But someone did try," said Dong Wook. "And now, Minho is dead." Dr. Kemtar continued his scans. "I'm detecting residual energy patterns unlike anything in our databases. The Guardian constructs left traces of their presence." "What kind of traces?" asked Tejo. "Energy signatures that suggest manipulation of space-time itself. They didn't just use advanced weapons. They altered reality around the Iron Talon individuals." The implications of this were terrifying to everyone present. A technology that could change reality was beyond anything any current species could imagine, let alone defend against. "Captain," called Yunji from communications, "I'm receiving a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through." The screen showed Admiral Park, the head of Earth's new Space Defense Force. Her expression was grim. "Captain Hyun-Soo, we've received reports about the incident. How many humans were lost?" "One, Admiral. Researcher Minho was killed by the Iron Talon leader." Admiral Park closed her eyes briefly. "And the response?" "Complete elimination of the Iron Talon species across the galaxy. They no longer exist." "Dear God," whispered the Admiral. "Captain, you need to return to Earth immediately. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Panic. Half the population wants to celebrate our protection, and the other half is terrified by the responsibility. We need first-hand accounts of what actually happened." So Young stepped forward. "Admiral, we need to understand more about the Guardian machines first. They left energy traces that might tell us how they work." "Negative. Earth's safety is the priority. Return immediately." Before Captain Hyun-Soo could respond, new alarms began sounding throughout the station. "Captain," called Dr. Kemtar urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in nearby space. Something's coming." Through the windows, they could see lights beginning to appear again. But these weren't the same geometric constructs from before. These were larger, more complex, and they seemed to be made of pure energy rather than matter. "Guardian ships," whispered Keth Rowell. "True Guardian vessels, not just their automated constructs." The energy beings that appeared were massive beyond comprehension. They stretched across space like flowing light, constantly changing shape and pattern. Looking at them directly made everyone's eyes water, and their minds struggled to process what they were seeing. "They're beautiful," said Aira, in wonder, temporarily forgetting her grief. One of the energy beings moved closer to the station. When it spoke, its voice filled their minds without using sound. Humans of the protected species. We are the sentinels left by those who came before. We have observed your first contact with galactic civilization. Captain Hyan Su stepped forward, though his legs were shaking. Are you the guardians? We are their servants, created to maintain their final law. The ones you call guardians transcended physical existence long ago, but their will remains through us. Why are you showing yourselves now? Asked So Young. The destruction of those who harmed your kind has created fear among the galaxy's species. They must understand that our purpose is protection, not conquest. Taeho found the courage to ask the question everyone was thinking. Why are humans protected? What makes us special? The energy being pulsed brighter for a moment. That knowledge is held in the archive, waiting for when your species is ready to understand. When will we be ready? Asked Captain Hyun-soo. When you have proven you can be trusted with the truth. When you have shown you can guide rather than rule. Ambassador Kethral bowed respectfully. Great Sentinel, the Galactic Council seeks guidance. How should we proceed with human integration into our civilization? Carefully. Humans must learn their place in the greater community gradually. They must earn their respect through actions, not inherit it through protection. Dr. Kemtar was frantically recording energy readings. The technology powering these beings is beyond our ability to measure. Your instruments cannot comprehend our nature, said the Sentinel. We exist partially outside your reality, as did our creators. Yunji asked quietly, will there be more tests, like the Iron Talon? There will always be those who doubt, but each demonstration of our vigilance makes future violations less likely. Dongwook looked at Minho's covered body. Could you have saved him? Prevention is not our function. Justice is. Your companion's death serves a purpose. It proves that our protection is real and absolute. The cold nature of this response made everyone uncomfortable. The Sentinels protected humans, but seemed to view individual human lives as acceptable losses for the greater good. The one who died will be honored, continued the Sentinel. His sacrifice reinforces the law that keeps your species safe. We don't want people to die for our protection, said Aira angrily. Death gives meaning to protection. Without consequences, laws have no power. Captain Hyun-soo realized he was talking to beings that thought in ways completely different from humans or any other species they had met. What happens now? He asked. Now your species faces a choice. You may remain on your world, protected but isolated. Or you may join galactic civilization and learn to be worthy of your guardianship. What does worthy mean to you? It means understanding that great power requires great wisdom. It means leading by example rather than by force. It means being protectors of others rather than merely protected yourselves. The Sentinel began to fade slightly. We leave you with this knowledge. The galaxy watches your every action. Prove yourselves worthy of the trust placed in you by those who came before. Wait, called So Young. Can you tell us anything about the archive you mentioned? When you are ready, you will find it. Until then, learn what it means to be human among the stars. The energy beings faded away, leaving behind only the faint traces of their impossible energy signatures. The station was quiet for several minutes as everyone processed what they had experienced. We need to report this to the Council immediately, said Ambassador Kethral. The Sentinel's appearance will change everything. How? Asked Captain Hyun-soo. Every species in the galaxy now knows that the Guardian's servants are still active and watching. The protection of humans isn't just an old law, it's an active, living force. Dr. Kemtar was studying his readings. The energy levels I recorded suggest technology that could rebuild or destroy entire star systems. The Guardians didn't just leave behind weapons, they left behind the power of gods. Taeho sat down heavily, and somehow, that power exists to protect us. But why? Asked Yunji. What did humans ever do to deserve this? That's what we need, to find out, said Captain Hyun-soo. And apparently we need to prove ourselves worthy of learning the answer. As they prepared to leave the station with Minho's body, each of them understood that everything had changed. Humans were no longer just a protected species, they were being tested to see 6 months after the Iron Talon incident, humanity had changed. Earth's cities buzzed with activity as people worked to understand their place in the galaxy. Some humans felt proud of their protected status, while others worried about the responsibility. It brought Captain Hyun-soo had become Earth's primary ambassador to alien species. His crew had been promoted to lead humanity's exploration efforts, but they all carried the weight of Minho's death and the terrible power they had witnessed. Today, they stood in the command center of humanity's largest space station, orbiting Earth. With them were Admiral Park, several Earth scientists, and Ambassador Keth Rahl from the Galactic Council. "The energy trail is getting stronger," reported Tae-ho from his position at the sensor station. "Whatever the Sentinels left behind, we're getting close to it." For weeks, human and alien scientists had been following strange energy signatures that appeared after the Sentinels visited Research Station Nova. The trail led toward a region of space that all galactic maps marked as empty. "Are you certain we should be doing this?" asked Admiral Park. "The Sentinels said we would find the archive when we were ready. What if we're not ready yet?" So-young looked up from her research notes. "We've spent months studying Guardian technology and helping other species recover from the shock of the Iron Talon destruction. If we're not ready now, when will we be?" Yoonji was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. "The Council. Species are still reporting strange energy readings near their home worlds. Something is changing throughout the galaxy." Ambassador Keth Rahl studied the star charts. "In our oldest records, there are mentions of a Guardian facility in this region, but our ancestors believed it was destroyed when the Guardians disappeared." "Maybe it wasn't destroyed," suggested Dong-wook. "Maybe it was just hidden." Their ship, the new exploration vessel Unity, moved deeper into the empty region of space. The energy readings grew stronger with each passing hour. "Captain," called Tae-ho suddenly, "I'm detecting a massive structure ahead. It's enormous." On the main screen, a shape began to appear out of the darkness. At first, it looked like a small moon, but as they got closer, they realized it was artificial. The structure was made of the same impossible materials they had seen in the Guardian constructs, metal that seemed to glow with inner light. "How big is it?" asked Admiral Park in amazement. "Approximately 200 kilometers across," replied Tae-ho. "It's not just big, it's radiating energy patterns similar to what we detected from the Sentinels." Ara, who had joined the mission to honor Minho's memory, was scanning the structure with specialized equipment. "I'm detecting internal chambers, vast halls, and what looks like data storage systems." "The archive," whispered So-young. As they approached, a section of the structure opened without any visible mechanism. A docking bay appeared, clearly designed for ships much larger than theirs. "We're being invited in," said Captain Hyun-soo. The Unity moved into the docking bay, and the opening sealed behind them. Artificial gravity and atmosphere immediately surrounded their ship. "Someone wants us to come aboard," said Yoonji. They put on their spacesuits and left the ship, though the atmosphere readings showed the air was safe for humans. The docking bay was vast and empty, clearly unused for thousands of years. As they walked across the metal floor, lights began to appear, creating a path deeper into the structure. "It's responding to our presence," said Tae-ho nervously. They followed, the lights through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly, writing that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "These symbols," said Ara, studying them carefully, "they're not like any alien language we've encountered. They're more fundamental somehow." Eventually, the corridor opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness, and the walls curved away beyond sight. In the center of the chamber stood a pillar of light that pulsed with gentle energy. "Welcome, children of Earth," came a voice that seemed to speak from the light itself. "I am the Archive's guardian. I have waited long for this moment." The voice was warm and familiar in a way that made them all feel slightly homesick. "Are you a guardian?" asked Captain Hyun-soo. "I am what remains of one, a memory preserved in crystal and light, waiting to deliver a final message." The pillar of light began to change, taking on a more solid form. What appeared was tall and graceful, with features that looked almost human but more refined, more perfect. "You look like us," said So-young in wonder. "That is because you are us," replied the Guardian. Or rather, you are what we chose to become. The chamber around them shifted, and suddenly they were looking at images of ancient civilizations, planets covered in cities of impossible beauty, ships that moved between stars like thoughts, beings of light and energy who could reshape reality with their will. "This is what we were," explained the Guardian. "The first species to achieve true transcendence. We could live forever, travel instantly across the galaxy, create or destroy worlds with a thought." "What happened to you?" asked Tae-ho. "We grew tired," said the Guardian sadly. "Immortality became a burden. Infinite power made existence meaningless. We could do anything, so nothing mattered anymore." The images changed to show the Guardians in their final years, beings of incredible power who seemed lost and purposeless. We spent millions of years searching for meaning, for challenge, for something to make existence worthwhile again. Finally, we made the greatest choice in our civilization's history. "What choice?" asked Yunji. "We chose to become mortal again, to start over, to experience the struggle and growth that gives life meaning." New images appeared, showing the Guardians working on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. "We found a young species just beginning to evolve, primitive but full of potential. We guided their development, not through technology but through genetics and culture." Captain Hyan-Su felt a chill of understanding. "You're talking about humans." "Yes. We planted ourselves into your evolutionary line. We became your ancestors, giving up our transcendence to experience mortality through you." The revelation hit them all like a physical blow. Humans weren't just protected by the Guardians. They were the Guardians, reborn in mortal form. "But we're nothing like you," protested Dong-wook. "We can barely travel to nearby stars." "Exactly," said the Guardian, with something like pride. "You are everything we lost. You struggle, you grow, you feel wonder at simple discoveries. You experience love and loss, hope and fear. You are truly alive in ways we had forgotten." Ara was crying. "Minho died protecting this secret. Minho died because the protection laws were necessary to preserve your natural development. If other species had known you were our descendants, they would have either worshipped you or tried to destroy you before you could fulfill your potential." So Young wiped away tears. "So the protection wasn't just about keeping us safe, it was about keeping us human. Yes, we wanted you to develop naturally, to face challenges and grow through struggle. The protection was meant to prevent interference, not eliminate all danger." "But why reveal this now?" asked Captain Hyun-Soo. "Because you have reached the point where you must choose your own path. You have proven that you can be compassionate to other species, that you can learn and grow even under the burden of protection." The chamber filled with new images, humans working alongside aliens, sharing knowledge, helping solve galactic problems. "The protection laws have an expiration condition," continued the Guardian. "When humanity demonstrates that they can defend themselves and contribute to galactic civilization, the automatic safeguards will deactivate." Admiral Park looked shocked. "You mean the Sentinels will stop protecting us?" "The artificial protections will end, yes. But you will have something far more valuable, the choice to become who you want to be." Tae-ho understood the implications. Without the protection, other species won't have to fear us anymore. "We'll be equals." "More than equals," said the Guardian. "You will be the bridge between transcendence and mortality. You carry within you the memories of godhood and the wisdom of struggle." "What do you want us to do with this knowledge?" asked So Young. "Use it wisely. Help other species grow without forcing them. Share knowledge without creating dependence. Be the teachers and guides that we could never be, because you remember what it's like to learn." The Guardian began to fade slightly. "My time is ending. This message was meant to be delivered only once." "Wait," called Ara. "Will we ever see the Guardians again?" "You are the Guardians," replied the fading figure. "Not the transcended beings we became, but the mortal, growing, wondering people we chose to be. The galaxy's future is in your hands now." "What about the technology?" "The power?" asked Admiral Park. Technology without wisdom is meaningless. Power without growth is empty. You have something far more valuable, the ability to inspire others, to become better than they are. The Guardian's form became completely transparent. Remember us not as gods, but as people who loved life so much, they gave up immortality to experience it again through you. The pillar of light dimmed and went out, leaving them in the quiet chamber. For a long time, nobody spoke. They stood in the darkness, processing the truth about their species' origin and destiny. "So what now?" asked Yunji Finney. 1 year had passed since the discovery of the archive. Earth orbit was now filled with ships from across the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to witness humanity's most important decision in their history. Captain Hyan Su stood on the observation deck of the massive space station New Geneva, looking out at the incredible gathering. Sleek Vellani cruisers floated alongside the crystalline ships of the Thekmar. The organic vessels of the plant-like Verdani pulsed with bioluminescent light next to the geometric craft of the machine intelligence known as the Collective. "It's beautiful," said Eunji, joining him at the window. "I never imagined we'd see so many different species working together." "They're here because of us," replied Hyunsu thoughtfully. "The knowledge that humans are the descendants of the Guardians has changed everything." Behind them, the station buzzed with activity. Diplomats from across the galaxy were meeting with human representatives, negotiating new treaties and partnerships. But not all the attention was welcome. "Captain," called So Young as she approached with a data pad, "we've received formal requests from 12 different species asking humans to lead the Galactic Council." "And?" asked Yunji. "We've also received warnings from 8 species saying they'll leave galactic civilization if humans are given any special authority." Taeho joined their conversation, looking tired. "The engineering teams from 6 different worlds want us to share Guardian technology. They think we must have inherited some of their advanced knowledge." "Do we?" asked Yunji. "If we do, we don't know how to access it," replied Taeho. "Human scientists have been studying our genetics for months. We're definitely descended from the Guardians, but any special abilities they had were lost long ago." Admiral Park's voice came over the station's communication system. "All department heads to the main conference room. The final session is about to begin." The conference room was the largest space on the station, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species with varying atmospheric and gravitational needs. Today it was packed beyond capacity. At the center of the room sat a circular table where the most important delegates were gathered. Captain Hyun Soo represented Earth's exploration forces while Admiral Park spoke for Earth's government. Ambassador Kethral was there for the Galactic Council, along with representatives from every major species. "The question before us today is simple," began Ambassador Kethral. "How should humanity's new status affect galactic civilization?" Insectoid delegate from the Zephyrian hives spoke first. "The descendants of the Guardians should lead us. It is natural and proper." "Natural?" challenged a representative of the aquatic Mertai. "These humans have been in space for less than 2 years. How can they lead species that have traveled the stars for millennia?" A mechanical voice from the collective added, "Logic suggests that genetic heritage does not equal leadership capability." Admiral Park stood up. "May I remind everyone that humans never asked for special treatment. We learned about our heritage the same time you did." "But you must acknowledge your responsibility," pressed the Zephyrian. "The Guardian legacy belongs to your species." Captain Hyan Su rose to address the assembly. "With respect, the Guardian legacy belongs to everyone. They created the laws that have kept the galaxy peaceful for thousands of years. Those laws protected not just humans, but all species from the chaos of unrestricted warfare." Murmurs of agreement came from several delegates. "However," continued Hyun-Soo, "we believe it's time for those protections to end." The room erupted in shocked voices from a dozen different species. "You cannot be serious," said the Vellani delegate. "The protection laws have maintained order throughout the galaxy." "The protection laws have also made us a burden on galactic civilization," replied So Young, standing beside her captain. "Every species has to walk on eggshells around humans, afraid that an accident might trigger the Sentinels." Ara, who had become Earth's specialist in Guardian studies, added her voice. The Guardians themselves said the protection was temporary. It was meant to let us develop naturally, not to make us permanent rulers or permanent children. But what if someone tries to harm humans again? Asked Ambassador Kethral. Without the protection laws, your species could be vulnerable. Teho stepped forward with a confident smile. Then we'll defend ourselves, just like every other species in the galaxy. We'll make allies, build ships, and take responsibility for our own safety. You're willing to give up godlike protection to become ordinary? Asked the collective's representative. We're willing to give up artificial protection to become real, replied Captain Hyon Su. The Guardians didn't protect us so we could rule the galaxy. They protected us so we could learn to be good neighbors in it. Dongwook had prepared a presentation for this moment. He activated the room's holographic display, showing images from their journey across the galaxy. Over the past year, humans have worked alongside dozens of species on scientific projects, exploration missions, and humanitarian efforts. We've shared what little technology we have and learned from everyone we've met. The display showed human doctors working with Vellani medics to fight a plague on a distant world. It showed human engineers cooperating with Thekmar builders to construct new space stations. It showed human diplomats helping to negotiate peace between species that had been enemies for centuries. This is what we want to continue doing, said So Young. Not as protected beings or inherited rulers, but as equal partners. The Murtai representative looked skeptical. And if you're wrong? If removing the protection leads to conflict? Then we'll face that conflict together, said Admiral. Park! Humans, Vellani, Thekmar, Murtai, and everyone else who believes in cooperation over conquest. Ambassador Kethral was quiet for a long moment. You're asking us to trust that humanity can stand as equals rather than accept your inherited superiority. We're asking you to let us earn our place in the galaxy through our actions, not our ancestry, replied Captain Hyon Su. And if we refuse? If the Council decides to maintain the protection laws? Captain Hyon Su looked around the room at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. Then humans will respect that decision. But we'll also work to prove that we don't need protection to be valuable members of galactic civilization. An elderly delegate from the Wisdom Keepers, one of the oldest species in the galaxy, spoke for the first time. In our long history, we have seen many species rise to power. Most use that power to dominate others. What makes humans different? Yunji answered before anyone else could. Because we remember what it's like to be weak. The Guardians gave up their power specifically so their descendants would understand struggle and growth. We don't want to rule because we know how it feels to learn and fail and try again. We want to help others have that same experience, added Era. To explore and discover and become more than they thought possible. The Wisdom Keeper nodded slowly. This is wisdom beyond your years as a spacefaring species. The debate continued for hours, but gradually, more and more delegates began to support humanity's position. The idea that a species would voluntarily give up protection and privilege was unprecedented in galactic history. Finally, Ambassador Kethral called for a formal vote. All in favor of deactivating the Guardian protection protocols and welcoming humanity as full equals in galactic civilization? The vote was closer than anyone expected, but it passed. Slightly more than half the galaxy's species agreed to trust humanity with equality rather than burden them with protection. As the voting ended, the space around the station began to shimmer. The Sentinel constructs appeared one final time, their energy forms more beautiful and peaceful than ever before. The protection protocols are hereby deactivated, came their familiar mental voice. Humanity is free to choose its own destiny. Will you remain to guide us? Asked Captain Hyon Su. Our purpose is complete. We return to the void between stars to rest until we are needed again. When might that be? When another species faces the choice between power and wisdom. Until then, the galaxy's future belongs to those with the courage to grow. The Sentinels faded away, taking with them the absolute protection that had defined humanity's relationship with the stars. In the months that followed, nothing dramatic happened. No species immediately tried to attack humans. No wars broke out over the change in cosmic law. Instead, humanity began to build real relationships with other species, partnerships based on mutual respect rather than fear. Captain Hyun-soo was elected as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, but not as its leader. Humans took their place alongside other species as contributors to galactic civilization. Yoonji established the first interspecies navigation academy, where pilots from different worlds learned to travel together safely. Taeho founded an engineering exchange program that shared technology between species based on need rather than power. So Young became the galaxy's leading expert on peaceful first contact procedures, helping newly spacefaring species integrate into galactic civilization without the trauma humanity had experienced. A-Ra built a memorial to Minho that became a center for studying the history of all species, a reminder that every civilization's growth came at a cost, and that those costs should be honored and remembered. 1 year after the protection,